Part 1. He returned home at midnight and discovered a woman giving birth in his bathroom. Before Lagos woke, before the horns filled the streets, before Danfoss roared at Ojuelegba Bridge, Julian Cole returned to a city he once ran away from. The air carried the smell of rain on concrete, and the trees whispered with the early harmattan wind. He had been gone for 7 years. Everyone thought he would never come back. But that night he returned quietly, not with celebration, but with silence. The mansion in Ikoyi stood dark, almost forgotten. Dust covered the furniture, and his late father's crooked portrait still hung on the wall. Julian was tired. He unlocked the master bedroom, longing only for a shower. But when he opened the bathroom door, his whole world shifted. There, on the coal tiles, lay a young woman, barefoot, sweating, crying out in pain. She was in labor, her back pressed against the wall, wrapper soaked, breath breaking in desperate gasps. A stranger in his bathroom. Their eyes met, wide, pleading. "Please," she whispered. "Don't throw me out. Help me, I beg you." Julian froze. The billionaire who could command boardrooms suddenly had no words in his own house. The smell of blood and fear filled the room. Memories of his own mother's lonely deathbed came rushing back. Would he walk away like his father once did, or would he choose differently? Her name was Ruth, a market woman from Mushin. She had been part of a cleaning group working in the mansion, secretly arranged by the estate manager. When labor started too soon, the others panicked and left. Ruth locked herself inside, searching for water, before collapsing in Julian's bathroom. Julian called for help, but rain had cut off the lines. The house was isolated. It was just them. He knelt beside her, clumsy hands trembling. She gripped him, screamed, pushed. His shirt became her pillow, his hands became her anchor. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then a sharp cry split the silence. A baby girl. Fragile. Small fists waving. Julian cut the cord with shaking hands. For the first time in years, his eyes filled with tears. Ruth whispered through exhaustion, You saved us." And in that moment, Julian felt something he hadn't felt in years, seen. In the days that followed, Julian let Ruth and her baby stay in the mansion's guest quarters. He found himself drawn to her strength, how she hummed lullabies in the night, how she repaired her torn wrapper with quiet dignity, how she smiled even when the world had given her nothing. They shared tea at sunrise, jokes over spilled pap, and silent prayers before sleep. Slowly, something tender grew between them. But not everyone approved. Mr. Benson, the estate lawyer, warned Julian, "This woman will ruin you. The press will not forgive. Billionaires do not mix with market women." And in Mushin, Mama F whispered to Ruth, "Be careful, my child. Gold that shines too bright can burn your hand." Still, Julian's heart leaned closer. He decided to stand by her. At a charity gala in Victoria Island, he introduced Ruth openly, holding her hand with quiet pride. For the first time, he was not ashamed of his choices. But betrayal came swiftly. Ruth's ex, Michael, appeared in the crowd, angry, bitter. He declared himself the child's father, mocking Julian before the cameras. The next morning, headlines exploded. Billionaire heir caught in market girl drama. Board members called. Investors pulled back. Benson urged Julian to cut ties. Ruth begged him to believe her, that Michael had abandoned her long ago. But Julian's old wounds bled open, the shame of his own illegitimacy, the sting of his father's rejection. Fear spoke louder than love. "I cannot fight your battles for you," he told her coldly. And that night, Ruth left the mansion with her baby in her arms, tears falling into the darkness. Julian was left alone. The silence of the mansion grew unbearable. He drowned himself in work, but nothing filled the emptiness Ruth left behind. Then one night, he opened his mother's old letters. In faded ink, he read her words, "Strength is not in walls or wealth, my son. It is in who you choose to stand beside when storms come." His heart broke. He realized he had become the very man he swore he would never be. With quiet resolve, Julian rose. He investigated Michael, uncovering fraud, debts, and a long trail of desertion. Silently, he restored Ruth's market stall, cleared her debts, and prepared for a public stand. The showdown came in court. Michael, hungry for money, filed for custody. The courtroom was tense. Michael's lawyer painted Ruth as unfit, desperate, poor. She sat trembling, baby in her arms, shame pressing heavy. Then Julian entered, calm, dignified. He revealed Michael's record, his abandonment, his fraud, and with steady voice he declared, "This woman stood alone when no one else did. She deserves honor, not shame." The judge ruled in Ruth's favor. Michael stormed out defeated. The room fell silent, but respect for Julian's stand filled the air. Weeks later, Julian found Ruth at her stall, arranging tomatoes under the hot Lagos sun. He didn't bring wealth, only bread and a simple smile. She hesitated at first, but when she looked into his eyes, she saw humility. They walked home together, baby asleep between them. Not yet lovers, but something deeper. Two broken souls refusing to abandon each other again. Months later, in the same mansion bathroom where it all began, Ruth bathed her baby while Julian stood nearby. The walls no longer felt empty. He introduced her to Mama Grace, his late mother's best friend, the woman who once fed him when Mary had nothing. Together, they lit a single candle for new beginnings. Julian looked at Ruth, his voice soft. "I left this house empty, but you filled it with life." She smiled and placed the baby in his arms. Outside, Lagos roared awake, Danfo's honking, smoke rising, but inside that mansion, laughter of a child echoed against old walls. And for Julian, it was no longer just a house. It was finally a home.